Hello again. In this video, we will learn a special structure that is made with the help of transitive verb. The formation of the sentence is that we use subject first, then we use verb, and this is verb transitive. I have already written here. After that, we use object, and finally we use bare infinitive. What is bare infinitive? The form of the infinitive without to. In our last video, we also learned such a structure. But in that video, we learned that the verb or the infinitive which is used after the object is full infinitive, means that takes to. What is full infinitive? What is bare infinitive? And what are the kinds of infinitive? If you want to know more about them, please watch my video on that particular topic. The very interesting point about this structure is that object performs two roles here. One as a simple object. And what is the function of object? That receives the action or the part of the sentence on which the work is done. The work that is done on this object is indicated by this first verb, and this is actually the main verb. This is the main verb. So the first work that takes place are indicated by this verb effects on object. The other role that object plays is that it performs the role of a logical subject to this infinitive form. Since the sentence contains two verbs, this and this one, so this role or this activity is performed by this subject, and the activity that is indicated by a bare infinitive is performed by the object. And this is the interesting thing about it. Now, what are the verbs used in this particular pattern? The very commonly used verbs in this construction are causative verbs and verbs of perception. Causative verbs are the verbs which show that you do not do the work yourself, but you make some other person do the work. Then the verbs of perception show the activities of your senses. 5 senses that we have. If you want to know more about verbs of perception, please watch my video on verb. Now let us learn this particular construction in sentences and something more. My first sentence is, I had the mechanic check my car. I didn't do the work myself, but I made mechanic do that work. This is the sense of the sentence. But what is the construction? This is the verb, as I have mentioned here, and this is the subject we have used here as, and then object. Mechanic is the object, and check is the bare infinitive. Now, if you see or study this sentence properly, that I did that work and mechanic did this work, check. Who checked my car? Mechanic. Who asked him to do that thing? I. So I did work on mechanic, right? And mechanic did the work of checking. So object here is doing the work. But never forget, we are using check. You will be tempted to use to, which will be a grammatical mistake. You can't do that thing. You can't say, I had the mechanic to check my car. I have already written that it takes bare infinitive, and mostly it is common with the causative verbs. Let's have a look at the second example. Let is also used as a causative verb, like she let him borrow her book. Let him is the object and this is the bare infinitive. This is bare infinitive. She did this work and he did this work. But never forget, you can't use to here. Again, the other thing that I have noticed, that when students write or speak and use the word let, they are tempted to use to, which is grammatical mistake. To always takes bare infinitive. The teacher made students clean the class. Teacher is the subject again, made is the main verb, and students in this sentence is object and they do the work of cleaning. But I can't say the teacher made students to clean. If I use here to, again I will be making a mistake. This is where this structure is different from the previous one we talked about in our earlier video. Now we are coming to have a look at some of the examples which are made with verbs of perception. These are the examples which are made with the causative verbs and verbs of perception. Before talking about the examples, I would draw your attention to this note, that these verbs means verbs of perception like see, smell, hear, feel, taste, etc. These verbs may take ing form of the verb. Ing form. In our formation, we have used bare infinitive, but may take ing form. When, in what condition, in what situation? When the action is continuous. Sometimes we want to show a continuous activity. When this is our sense, with verbs of perception, we can use ing form instead of bare infinitive. Let's have a look at the examples I have written using verbs of perception. I felt, verb of perception, the house shake. You will be tempted to say, to put to, but we have already talked about that in this construction we use bare infinitive. I felt the house shake during the storm. But I can also use here, I felt the house shaking. I will use this thing when I want to tell my listeners or readers that the work was continuous. But if I am making a general statement, then I will put bare infinitive. The other example is we used to hear. Here is a verb of perception. Her sing. Not to sing. This is the special thing about this structure, that object does the work of infinitive, but infinitive must be bare infinitive. So we used to hear her sing, or if the continuous situation is there, singing we can use. So we used to hear her sing melodious songs. She watches birds fly. Watches, verb of perception here. Fly. Fly again takes the bare infinitive. She watches birds fly, not to fly, and loves them. General statement. So the common examples of this structure are causative verbs and verbs of perception that take bare infinitive after the object. But we have also a special verb, help. The special thing about this verb is that it may or may not take to. It's not a grammatical rule or a hard and fast rule. It's your choice. If you like, you can use to with the verb. If you don't like, you can remove it. Let's have a look at the example. She helped me finish my work. Okay, this is all correct. She helped me finish. But if I want to use to, she helped me to finish my work, the sentence is still correct. That's why I have put it into brackets. That means it is a choice, not a rule. There's also another important point that we must note. And what is that? In passive, these verbs take to. The basic concept, the focus is that the verbs, these verbs, and what are these verbs? Causative verbs and verbs of perception take bare infinitive. But when we change the sentence into passivize, then we will have to use full infinitive. This is again another place where most of new learners make mistake. Let's have a look at the examples and learn this thing. They made him leave. Made, causative verb. That's why we are using here bare infinitive, and the sentence is active voice. The sentence is active voice. The moment I change this sentence into passive voice, then I will have to use to before leave. Like he was made. They made and he was made to leave. Focus on to. If I'm not putting here to, again I'm making a grammatical mistake. So in passive voice, with these verbs, we have to retain to of the infinitive instead of removing. But there's also another interesting point, or you might have encountered somewhere, that there is a different case with let. Sometimes some teachers, not knowing things properly, give these types of sentences to students, and they bring these things to me and ask me. So that's why I wanted to make these things clear. That is, he was late to come in. The sentence is wrong. He was late to come in. It is, late is never used in passive voice. So there is no question of putting to before it. That's why the sentence is wrong. If the situation comes where you have to use let, as we have used here, she let him borrow her book, and I want to change this sentence into passive voice, so I will have to change let into allow instead of putting to. The rule is that when we change the sentence into passive voice, we have to use to before it. But when the case of let is there, we will replace the whole word and put a new word in place of it. So the sentence would be, instead of saying he was late to come in, the sentence is wrong. I would say he was allowed. Again, I will use allowed. Then in that case, I can put to before it. So I hope you learned all about this particular structure and the common mistakes new learners make. Still, if you have any confusion, do ask me in the comment section. If you like my video, do like and subscribe. Until my next video, bye bye.